You can grit your way to 1 million in revenue, but you cannot grit your way to 5 million in revenue. At some point, leadership has to replace hustle. Welcome back to Unfiltered Profit. We are excited to dive into this episode today. So Caitlynn and I did our quarterly strategic planning. And if you have listened to some of those episodes, you know that we're working through it. We're getting some structure in our business and we are working through all the merger chaos of business growth. And we are narrowing the lens of this show. So we love this podcast. We love creating these episodes. But as we have worked on our ideal client, we have honed in what we really want Unfiltered Profit to be all about. And so now we are specifically creating these episodes for closely held professional service firms that are generating between 1 and 5 million in revenue. So I want to identify that first, closely held. So we're in this day and age where there's a lot of private equity and investors and all of that in business. And the reality is we at Prospera care so much about changing the lives of business owners and their families and their employees and their communities that we want to be focused on those closely held businesses that are held by owners, by partners, not by investors that are just looking to turn a profit, sell the business, and move on out of there. So we focus on that, but we're specifically targeting firms that are at least 1 million in revenue, and our sweet spot is at 1 to 5 million in revenue. So that's what this podcast is focused on. If you're earlier than 1 million in revenue, your focus should probably be on revenue stability, making sure you've got good leads in. This might not be the podcast for you, but it might. You can listen. If you're operating with a full internal finance department, this might not be the podcast for you either. I'm not sure what we're going to share is helpful to you. But if you've crossed that $1 million mark through blood, sweat, and tears, building relationships, working long hours, and you're realizing that growth from here now requires deeper financial leadership, this is exactly where we operate. So as firms move from 1 million toward 5 million, that leadership demand changes. And that is what we're focusing these episodes around. Those decisions carry more weight. The margins matter more. Financial clarity has to deepen. And today we're talking about that transition. So Caitlynn, what do you see happening in that 1 to 5 million revenue range?
Yeah, well, as you got to that 1 million and you experience it, so we're doing the practice as you preach thing, right? So we experienced where the founders are so heavily involved in that delivery and the hours are long and the revenue's going up and you're hiring quickly, but maybe your systems are lagging behind the growth. Suddenly, you're going to kind of have to make some bets. And we've heard that language from some of our coaches who we really like and people we've crossed paths with. And you got to make the bet. You got to make the bet that you're going to hire and that it's going to go well. And it just feels better making those bets when there's some foundation behind it. Yeah. So it's hard. It's hard to say, hey, I'm going to hire maybe a little bit beyond what I feel comfortable with. But that's where you start getting really past that 1 million, because we see a lot of business owners get stuck at 1 million and not because they necessarily want to be there. It just feels all chaotic and they've struggled to put those systems and that foundation in place to start going beyond it.
Well, let's just say that to break the ceiling of a 7-figure firm, to bust through that, you've done a lot of work, right? There's a lot there. You have created quite a thing, and you should feel very proud of that. But we see so often the business owners have done that as them still being so caught up in client delivery and working long hours and everything's on their back and they don't have a support team. And if they're out sick, things are not operating smoothly, right? Everything comes to a halt unless they're there for decision making. And so when we were thinking, okay, who do we want to serve? We want to serve those business owners that are at that point that don't want to get burnout and hate their business. They want to figure out how to build a machine that creates value and they can work a little bit less if they want to, or add in new revenue streams. Like, have energy and space to think, not just be like, oh, holy cow, I built this big thing, and if I don't keep going at the pace I'm going, it's all going to fall apart. You create value to sell, to pass down to generations by building something that you're removable from. And there's a lot of financial clarity that has to be in place in order to hire those strategic positions to remove you from some of those operations.
Yeah, because otherwise it's just a gamble. It's that chaos and messy feeling of like, I just picture like these business owners standing there. I've described this to people before. And you're in a pond on a, like, and you're trying to figure out where you're leaping to next.
On a lily pad.
There's so many options, right? Is it that I hire next? Is it that I bring in a fractional CFO? Where is it? And as data people at heart, we always kind of pull back and we say, okay, numbers first. Let's see. Maybe you can make both at the same time, but you don't know that. If you're getting quarterly reports on your finances, you want to make that decision tomorrow. So yeah, that's just how I see it. When you hit that 1 million, it's still just messy enough that you're not quite sure that next right step.
Yeah. This always surprises me. Caitlynn and I are very active improvisers. And so we talk to people and they're like, well, I'll tell a story about, oh, well, this $20 million company had this type of mess going on. And they're like, well, I would have just thought that they had it all figured out by the time they reached 20 million in revenue. And I feel like that is the epitome of the like, oh, when I become an adult, I have it all figured out. You know, like when you're a kid, you're like, when I'm 18, I'll have it all figured out because 18 is so old. Which is not true.
It's not true, but it feels that way.
And then you realize that like we all never have it figured out because you're always on the cusp of the new next thing and you've never been there. Just like you've never been the next age. If you're a $3 million firm, you've never been a $4 million firm. And so you haven't had $4 million firm problems. But just because you're a certain size doesn't mean your chaos is less, that you're just all of a sudden this well-oiled machine that plugs along. But that is what you can create, especially when you've gotten to the size where you obviously have like some brand recognition. You're established, right? It's not just the go out there and sell, come back and talk to me about strategy when you've got a bunch of referrals coming in regularly and, you know, selling is not your problem kind of thing. But
it is. I mean, I don't know how many business owners I've talked to, probably all of them. I don't think I found one that told me, oh, I got into this business so I could do my accounting, so I could track my numbers. A salesperson, I mean, they're watching their commission, but they're not necessarily like, oh, let me type that all in and see what's going on. Like, it's just not where their love is. And so, as we've addressed, it's not where your love is. It kind of goes to the bottom of your list. And again, we get back to this, like, it's just messy and you're just flying and you're trying to make it work. And you're like, well, I got this far. I'll just keep going. And then there's the shame of like, how did I get this far with it being this messy? And is someone going to judge me for this? And so then you don't call in the help you need because it's just this never ending cycle. It feels like.
Or you're afraid to share your financials with the team you so badly want to hire. But in order to elevate them to a management position, you need to be comfortable sharing the financials. But you don't want to share the mess and the dirty laundry that is your financials. Or, you know, not even like bookkeeping level. I was having this conversation with firm owners yesterday. To make decisions about raising prices, who to raise prices on, who's the right fit of a client. There's data that's needed and there's data that your accounting system should give you, regardless of whether you're an attorney or an architect or a CPA or whatever professional service it is. Your system should be able to give you some level of data to say, yes, we've priced them right. No, we haven't priced them right. Here's what we need to correct going forward. Yeah, it might take some manual work to pull from different system hours from here and price from there and do some work. But if you're like, my system couldn't even tell me and I don't even know where to start. Well, if you want to scale smartly, we got to make sure margins are there, right? Yeah. If you don't have margins, you don't have additional money to go hire those people that you need to take yourself out of certain aspects of the business.
Yep. It's quite the conundrum, but I mean, I think that's why we love what we do, why we're pivoting everything at the moment. And it's putting us where our strong suits are. So what have we seen that really just breaks between, so maybe it worked until you hit $1 million, right? But now 1 to 5, let's say that's the end goal is 5 million. What may have been happening that now you're going to see break in a way that you're just, it becomes frustrating and it actually becomes a hindrance?
I think the biggest thing is the ability to have timely financial statements. So that month-end close is probably one of the biggest places. And we've walked through this with clients where you get to that size and you start looking at the processes, the admin that inputs this thing and this person that's plugged in over here. And then you get to month-end and you're like, well, this is the mess we have. And now we've got to clean all of this up in order to just get financial statements. So then that takes 3 weeks. And then congratulations, now you're a whole 3 weeks behind on financial statements that you'd rather have to make those strategic decisions. And so as you grow, the number of transactions increase, complexity in your business increases. And you've got to have the ability to get those financials to you to make decisions. And you don't want those financials to create more questions than answers. Why is this thing over here negative? Is it supposed to be negative? That doesn't help you answer it.
And you have to know, right? That's the other piece. You have to know that level of detail. And that's not every business owner's forte, is to be like, hey, that profit and loss is odd. The other thing is, as you go 1 to 5 million, maybe you could get away with your own bookkeeping or your accounting, but you need someone, but you don't need a full-time someone, right? Like you can't really afford to bring someone in full-time to do all of this for you. And how do you get one person who could do entry level, maybe up to controller level services? You're not going to find it, at least not within budget. You're not going to find an accountant in today's world of not enough CPAs and not enough accountants, because that's like a 15, 20, 30 million businesses when we start building our accounting department, right? But 1 to 5, we really need to trust our outsourced accounting.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem we see is that people decide to plug an admin into that place. Mm-hmm. And I'm not being mean, no disrespect, but admins, typically speaking, don't understand accounting, right? And they might be able to click the buttons in the accounting file. I understand that, but they don't understand the mess that they're creating through their button clicking. But the invoice is there. And I received the payment. Shouldn't everything be okay? It's not. Spoiler alert, it's not okay. And I think what that then creates is we don't have good books. We can't make strategic decisions, but we can't make strategic tax decisions.
Yep. We see that one all the time, that even at that level of business, 1 to 5, people are showing up and they're like, cool, this is my file. This is tax time. And the tax preparers, I mean, we come in and we take it and we're like, you're not ready. I can't use this. I mean, we've seen businesses that revenue 2 to 3 million and they're overpaying taxes by 6 figures. And you kind of pause and you're like, that's not great cash planning. What could that have been used for? I mean, if anything you've heard us say is that taxes and cash planning go hand in hand. And that's just one of those places where you need the teams talking to each other. And sometimes that's really hard when it's separated teams. And in today's world of, I'd say, specializing and fine-tuning who you serve, people are getting very narrow, rightfully so in some places. But that means that now you're trying to, as a business owner who's busy, who's overworked already, who's trying to get people to take your job, congrats, you now get to coordinate 2 to 3 accounting teams and tax teams. Nothing can go wrong there.
Well, I didn't know. I would have done this, but I didn't know.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Nobody knew.
And
nobody had access.
The reality is that when you can't cash plan because you're not tax planning, you can't plan your compensation as an owner either, right? Because when cash is short in the business, who's the first one that takes a hit, right? Because we want our businesses to succeed. So then that trickle effect, that's why our whole vision and our why behind our company exists, is because the business trickle effect goes right down into the family. when the owner's working more hours, when they're having to cut their pay, that's a family impact directly right there. You don't want that. You want to make clear decisions, know what your pay is going to be, have built-in slop, have a cash reserve, have the ability to plan for your next position you want to hire. Caitlynn and I have goals. We're like, okay, next year, this is the position I want to be able to hire within the company. And you want to be able to set that as a business owner and not just be like, I don't know, would be nice.
Right. Would be nice. That's the person who actually is going to take the load off my plate, but I don't know if I can afford them. It's just suddenly messy stops being scrappy. It stops being the American dream, pull yourself up by your bootstrap. It's just expensive at this point now. Messy has just created expenses for you. Unknown, unseen. I'd say it's so similar to bad hires or something like that, where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm paying for this again. I'm paying the interest and penalties again. I shouldn't have to. Or I paid too much and I lost 6% interest on this money all year. That's expensive. We're no longer talking pennies and dollars. We're talking 6 figures of cash that you're out. And that really hurts the heart as a business owner who could have done something better, right? You could have made that higher. You could have offloaded that. You could have taken that 2-week vacation because the systems were there and you get to see your family. Because 1 to 5 million, it should not be the owner 24/7, the founder. You're not going to be able to sell, right? You're not going to be able to escape because no one's going to pick it up and get paid probably not enough to do what you do.
And even if you don't want to sell, if you're listening here and you hear sell and you're like, that's not me. And it's like, well, it's not just about that. It's about creating an asset that has value and protecting your family, right? We care a lot about the families of business owners and we don't like to talk about it, but we're all going to die one day. Hopefully not unexpectedly, but unless your family knows exactly how to run your business, if you can't be taken out of the business and it keep running and it be sellable, there is no asset for your family at the end of that.
And a sustainable life, right? Because we see that in farming. I mean, I live in the Midwest, y'all know that, but the amount of farms that go up for sale around my house because the lifestyle is not sustainable to the profits and the pay. And the younger generation is saying, cool, Dad, I really appreciate all you did. I'm going to sell to the developer because I don't want that. And so if you don't want to sell, but your intent is that your family inherits it, do your kids even want that? We don't. We have a huge work-life balance. And so many of us as founders know that there's a period of time where you put in a lot of sweat equity, but you can't pass it on if that's the only thing keeping the lights on.
So this is where we're focusing. We're focusing on helping clients build financial leadership as a part of their business leadership, right? It's a whole encompassing piece. We've seen a ton of success and, comfort, clarity from working with a consultant that's guiding us through the process of making sure we're systematizing and doing all these things we need to do to remove ourselves from the business a little bit more than we currently are. And so we want our clients to have that financial clarity and leadership in order to make those decisions, take those steps, and be in that place.
And hold themselves accountable, right? Because Sean and I, we did if you guys have listened to any of this, we've done the fractional CFO, we've done the holding people accountable. And that's not the role we're playing right now, but what we are providing is that data that holds you accountable to that external mentor or consultant that you have. Because otherwise, what's the purpose of those quarterly meetings? We went through our financials. We said, hey, where are we? And are we on track, off track? What switches do we have to make? And if you don't have reliable information, it's a really pointless part of your quarterly meeting.
Yeah, it really is. Because if that can't be shared and talked about, you got nothing. And at this revenue level, your accountant shouldn't feel like a compliance vendor. We were blown away recently by just hearing some of the stories of business owners where it's at this level, you should have tax planning. You should have a coordinated vendor and you don't, and it's literally costing you the ability to make decisions within your business by not having the clarity you need. That provider should be communicating with you. They should be able to give you direct access to them and reports you need, or give you insight into whether your data can actually do what you need it to do, right? If you're like, hey, how do I figure out if we're charging our clients enough? All right, well, do you have these pieces together that you could pull, create a report for yourself and see which clients are profitable? If they're not able to answer any of those questions and guide you through your numbers so you understand where you're at, and they're probably not going to serve you very well in this stage of business.
Yeah. And again, getting to $1 million, your bookkeeping got to be maybe tax focused. Do I have the accounts that at least goes on my tax return? That's great. But 1 to 5, we start dialing it in a lot more. What is this aspect of your business costing you? What is this aspect charging? Is it working? And if all we have are the line items that show up on a business tax return, you don't have enough.
Yep. You've got to be able to make better operational decisions than that.
To get that profit. You want the profit, right? We want to get to the point where it's profitable and that leadership can protect that profit, that leadership can explain it to the team when pivots have to be made and changes have to be made. A leader who understands that financial and can come to the team and say, hey, this is why, because we're going here, because this is the vision. And I have not found a founder yet or a business owner who can't sell a good vision. No. But if you can have the numbers to back it up and be like, this is why I need this in this short period of time, because the goal is increased benefits for you and it's going to cost 5%. So we need to bring in 5% of revenue to offset. Like all of those things, you're going to have such better buy-in from your team and loyalty, I think, as you continue to grow and get to that point where you as the business owner can step back, can get back into that visionary role and less of your day-to-day deliverables.
Yes. And the reality is if you love the day-to-day deliverables, great. Pick and choose which one, keep it 1 and he in, right? Like just allow yourself the choice. You don't have to not be a technician, because I know some people get turned off by that thought process. They're like, well, I don't want to just be a business owner. I'm not saying that. Caitlynn and I want to go nerd out on accounting, trust me, and figure out how to better serve people. But it just means that like, I'm not coding the bank feed for our clients. I'm thinking about our clients a little more strategically than that.
Yep, exactly. And that they're profitable clients for us to be sticking our nose into, right? That we're not kind of going down a rabbit hole where we can't add value, because that's what we want. We want to be able to add value at the end of the day, and we need to make sure that we're serving our team and our clients well. So yeah, a little bit different. I'm excited for the new thing, the new pivots, the new topics we're going to be talking about, and hopefully you guys find a lot of value out of it.
Because we want them to sound more like conversations you would have in a mastermind or a round table with pure business owners. We're going to share a lot of our experience and stories that we hear and watch from clients. So we're excited for it.
We are. So if you have built your business through grit, it is something to respect. But your next stage is going to require some structure and your clarity and financial leadership. So if you're operating in that 1 to 5 million range and you're serious about elevating your leadership, let us know. We are opening our office line and our email to people to start building that relationship. So please go visit our website. We love it. But if you want to reach out directly to us, that's at 531-541-5006. And it is at Unfiltered Profit at justprospera.com. And you will get a straight line into Seanna and I. Forgive us if it does go to voicemail the initial time. We are still doing client work, but we have made the commitment to return those calls and to connect with you and hopefully serve you well.